Greetings, listeners. Sivalis Valeo.
Valamagulis.
Nanu.
Thank you for tuning in to our movie review podcast. This is Three Men in a Basement. We are the Ultra Crepidarians. My name is Colin McLeod.
Mark Hulp here.
Action Jackson.
Xmas, Flaxen, Jackson, Waxen.
That's what they call me.
Waxing that Jackson.
Oh, they're waxing all over that Jackson.
Daily.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie review podcast, what do we do?
I believe that we...
Play Batman.
Ooh.
We play badminton as we are reviewing movies.
Yeah.
It's complex.
It's
tough.
That's
honestly,
why you're here, though.
It could
A lot of
be an
rules.
Olympic sport.
It could be. But all you need to know, as the listening audience, is that once we're done doing our badminton movie review, surfboard cartwheel, we deliver to you our opinion about whether or not you need to see movies. And specifically, the movies that we like to target are those that are not total blockbuster smashes, not ones that are super duper obscure. So we're not reviewing an Indiana Jones, but our reviews are also not of movies that would be otherwise locked in a large warehouse in a wooden box labeled top secret.
No, you would find the movies that we review, I believe that they found it in an ark that somehow got lost.
Yeah, like an arc that it was about some kind of promise. I don't know, a covenant or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, people's faces melted. It was
insane.
They were
was
Nazis.
okay.
It's fine. They were Nazis. It's fine.
They did not see that
I
coming.
couldn't find them. I could not find them.
So we review those movies and we deliver to you our opinion about whether or not you need to track them down and see them.
Betamax.
Apparently on Betamax. This week we reviewed the movie.
The Last Starfighter.
Yes.
Not the first.
No.
Not one of the middle guys.
Nope.
It was the Last Starfighter.
Yeah, not
The
even like
final.
3/4 of the way in.
No,
This
which is a little presumptuous to assume, like, I'm the last, like, it's like,
rude.
haha, like, I'm the last Jedi. It's like, fucking, no, you're not. There's
no.
so many more Jedis.
Yeah.
You're not.
This is the Last Starfighter, but I'm going to say kind of presumptuous.
More to follow, dude.
Yeah. This movie, 1984 film, rated PG. PG?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I can endorse PG.
This was 80s PG, though.
This was 80s PG.
I was going to say 80s PG.
This was right about the time that PG-13 came out, like,
Remember,
as a thing.
Jaws was PG.
Yes, okay. So if Jaws is PG, this is clearly PG.
Yeah.
I straight up could not endorse this by today's standards as PG for, like,
A couple reasons.
several reasons.
Yeah, if this movie were released today, it would be PG-13.
No question, PG-13. Actually, if this movie were released today, they would just cut out a whole bunch of shit to make it PG, because clearly this movie was, like, marketed towards
At least a younger audience.
kids. I would say the target audience was, like, boys ages 8 to, like, 16. That was the target demographic.
I would venture even further and say between the ages of 13 and, like, 18 or 19.
Yeah, I think given the time, though, like I think the reasons why we're thinking this is like more extreme is the wrong word, but more than like today's PG standards. Again, it's just I think our culture has changed.
Yeah, like, again, like, I wouldn't probably be, like, rushing out to show this to an 8-year-old, but I think that's what they were aiming for, like,
Yeah.
in a sense, and depending on how revealing the IMDb summary is, I think I'll give some of my notes on why I think that is sort of the range of ages in my head. An hour and 41 minutes. Thoughts?
It felt longer than that to me.
Did it?
I would agree.
Oh.
It definitely felt like a 2-hour movie.
Wow,
In
okay.
some ways. In other ways, I don't know. This movie felt a little disjointed to me in that the story beats felt like they moved along, but there were definitely some aspects of it that did kind of drag on a bit for me.
I am going to respectfully disagree. No, I'm gonna disagree a little bit. I think this movie went along at not a super fast clip, but definitely an appreciable pace. I think for the same reasons I would say that I feel like Adventures in Babysitting went along at a good clip, is I think they're both adventure movies, like action adventure, and I feel like they oftentimes sort of one scene will lead to the next, right? And it pushes the narrative along a little bit more quickly.
Yeah.
In this movie specifically, I think, there could have been some fat trimmed probably from the beginning.
Well, I feel like that's also a symptom of being an 80s movie. I mean, you see that a lot, specifically action and adventure movies from the 80s that have weird, disjointed transitions or really jarring transitions. And back in the 80s, the special effects budget for certain films, and this one notwithstanding, didn't allow for seamless transitions and the really smooth graphics. So they had to cut abruptly to the computer animated scenes.
I suppose most of my defense of my point is going to have to be reserved for spoilers, I think.
Fair enough.
But I think I hear what you guys are saying. Do we want to do a little summary?
Let's do a summary, yeah.
Okay. All right. So a summary.
Summarize.
A summary of this movie here, everybody. High schooler Alex Rogan conquers the Starfighter video game only to find out that it was just a test and is transported to another planet. He's been recruited to join a team of the best starfighters to defend their world from an attack.
Yeah,
That's a movie.
That is the plot of the movie.
I would not change a thing. That's
No.
it. That's it.
It's a little wordy, honestly.
Unlike last week's, which was Queen Victoria develops a relationship with a man named Abdul.
That is accurate. A little diminutive, but accurate.
All right. Sorry to throw in a little summary there, but were we looking?
No, that was high and tight. Okay, so genres. We've got action, adventure, sci-fi. Anything else? Or would you disagree with anything that's in there?
No.
No, I think that's solid. I have a minor argument that we can throw in after spoilers territory, but I think that's solid.
Yeah. 80s isn't a genre, but it feels like it sometimes.
I love
so
that you
funny.
think that's where I was going.
That was literally that's where I was thinking. I was like, should I bring this up? Should I say like 80s camp,
Yeah.
80s vibe, like
It's not a genre, though, right?
like basically the exact vibe that bands like Gunship is going for, right?
Yeah. It's probably not Hootie and the Blowfish, but
It is not Hootie and the Blowfish so much, but yeah, no, that sort of like neon 80s campy nostalgic vibe.
Right.
This movie has it in spades.
right.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're right, not a classic genre, but could absolutely be applied. Who directed this movie? Mark, did you direct this movie?
No, but I understand why you might think I did. This was Nick Castle, not Mark Holt.
He directed Major Payne
Major Payne, fucking awesome. And Dennis the Menace from the 90s.
and The Boy Who Could Fly, Lockout.
Okay, Major Payne and Dennis the Menace are my big takeaways for this guy.
So he's been around as a bush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's no slouch. Who do we got in this movie?
A man named Lance Guest.
Yeah.
He was kind of the lead. He played Alex in this.
Yeah, he was a guest actor.
You might not be familiar with much of his other work. He was in Jaws: The Revenge.
Revenge, yeah.
Which is, I mean, come on, let's arguably the best Jaws.
I would argue.
I don't know.
I'm just saying you could have an argument about it, right?
You could have an argument.
You could have an argument
and
about
you probably would.
And you probably would, right? So it is arguably the best Jaws. This is all I'm saying.
I despise your logic because I can't
It's
refute it.
flawless.
I don't recognize any of these other movies.
He's in a lot of sequels.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But he was fine in this.
Hey, there are good sequels out there. Shrek 2.
Yeah.
Sure.
Toy Story 2.
Men in Black 2.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, Rosario Dawson.
She's mad.
She's mad. she's mad. Who else was in this?
Robert Preston played sort of the...
Centauri.
Yeah.
So he was Centauri, who I don't think it's... Well, we'll leave it at that. I'll get into the spoilers.
He okay. I will say though that Centauri the character, and I won't say why, but he was probably my favorite character in this, and that's entirely because of the way that Robert Preston played the character.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, but I think that's probably bringing us right up to the line, because there's so much I want to say about that character.
Yeah. Dan O'Herlihy played Grigg.
Dan O'Herlihy.
Yeah.
What do we know Dan O'Herlihy from?
Wait,
Well-
did we go over what Robert Preston was in?
I don't think we did. I think we skipped right over Robert Preston. My apologies.
Okay, I'm sorry. While you guys are looking up Preston, Dan O'Herlihy was in both RoboCop and RoboCop 2
Yes.
as Old Man.
Yes.
he was in both of them. Is it the same Old Man?
Probably.
Shared universe.
Just
Yeah.
Old Man?
Yep.
Wait, no. You're saying same universe. Are you assuming that there is only one old man in the RoboCop universe?
They're not old men.
That
old
is
man.
That is canon at this point.
It is.
That's the singularity.
I think IMDb has proven this conclusively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Robert Preston is known for 4 movies: The Music Man, Victor Victoria, Last Starfighter, and SOB.
Son of a bitch. Witch.
I don't know any of those movies.
I don't either.
However, he did have like a familiar face. And again, we're going to get into spoilers, but goddamn, I just need to get it off my chest.
Well, I mean, I've heard of The Music Man.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. But, like, I've heard its name in the wind.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Music Man. It's kind of like that.
Did you guys hear that wind?
Yeah, it was like a Music Man.
I'm so curious if this is going to get picked up on the microphone.
I don't know any of these other actors, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah,
One more. Catherine Mary Stewart. She was in Weekend at Bernie's. She played Gwen Saunders, I'm assuming that name is truncated a little bit.
Yeah.
She also, she's been in things, I think. But she is basically let's say, I'm going to be mean here. She is an 80s Walmart Amanda Peet.
Yes.
Okay?
She tries.
She's a good actress. She looks exactly like Amanda Peet.
Yep.
That you may have gotten at Walmart or Wish.com.
Yep.
And I would say perhaps her career didn't take off the same way Amanda Peet's did. Because I can name Amanda Peet. I mean, I'm not the arbiter of, like, who's famous, but...
Yeah, but the thing is...
But I could definitely, like, pull Amanda Peet's name out of a hat if I saw her.
If you were to say, Amanda Peet or Catherine Mary Stewart, which one are you familiar with?
I really want to call her Mary Stuart Masterson.
Masterson?
Isn't it Masterson? Mary Stuart Masterson?
Maybe. Either way, you probably have not seen her in anything.
I will say, though,
Yeah, Mary Stuart Masterson.
She was hot back then, and she aged like fine wine.
Depends on the wine, though.
It's true.
I'm going to age like a fine milk.
Yeah, I'm more like a cheese myself.
Cheese ages well, though.
Yeah,
I'm gonna curdle.
Changes color and starts to smell, but worth more.
Maybe. Veiny. You get veiny.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a veiny man.
And a veiny cheese.
Okay. Is that it for who's in it? Because, like, honestly...
Yeah.
We
No,
even
you're right.
commented as the movie started, like, I don't know any of these names.
Oh, skipped over it again, guys. Cherries.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, how many pops? I had a semi.
Yes, we noticed. It was uncomfortable throughout the entire movie. Jackson and I were definitely on the other side of the couch.
Oh, you were uncomfortable. No, you weren't.
We had a raging semi.
It was a semi-cherry in that, like, this movie was on when I was at a grandpa's house. So, like, I'd seen some of the scenes sort of play out before, and I knew basically what the story was about, but that's it.
He did say a grandpa.
Yeah.
And not his grandpa.
Right.
He's casting a really wide net. He could have seen this at anybody's grandpa's house.
He could have seen it at my grandpa's house.
This is going on the internet.
Ladies, gentlemen, protect your grandpas, because Mark's a coming. I don't know what that means he's going to do to them, but...
It means I'm taking them. You see that movie with Liam Neeson? They go and get taken.
Snatching grandpas. Oh, Snatching Grandpas. Band name.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Snatching grandpas.
Sounds ornery.
I myself had a big, wide, wet, loud cherry pop. I've heard of this movie, and I have seen a 10-second clip out of context, and that is about it.
I think you're a 10-second clip out of context.
Don't ask my wife.
That's some context.
Wait, did we just get some context?
Yeah, you got some context.
Okay. Whew.
What about you, Carlin?
I have seen this movie probably 4 or 5 times, but if I'm honest, the last time I saw it was probably 20 years ago at best. So, like, the broad strokes, very familiar to me. The details, I had completely forgotten. And I feel like I am at a far different stage in my life than I was 20 years ago, thank God.
I should hope so.
I'm not saying thank God as in, like, I was awful or a different person 20 years ago, like fundamentally, but I definitely don't want to be, like, living in my 13-year-old body.
Yeah, I don't want to be 11 again.
I mean, you're right.
I mean, 11, well, I suppose 11's about the age that you discover that you have, like, a fifth appendage. And
yeah, but
you have a fun couple of years, and then you reach 13, and you're like, I've burned through, I've expelled all of my dopamine, and I'm now suffering
Comatose.
Like, fierce depression.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, if I were to go back to 13... at least it would be over sooner. If I went back to 11, I'd still have to live through 13.
Oh. Over sooner sounded really dark.
Yeah.
It would be over sooner. Jackson's, ladies and gentlemen at home, you can't see him, but Jackson's doing a kind of 1,000-yard stare right now, like a nom-vet. He has seen things, and I don't think we're going to ask.
He's talked to people. He's driven a car.
Wouldn't recommend it. Nope. Okay, so 1.5 cherries?
Yeah.
Collected. Yeah, if it's like a quarter
Like a cherry in a cherry pit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Would you recommend this movie?
Honestly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Wow, that was not a glowing endorsement. That was
No, I've got
just over the 50% mark.
I've got some thoughts and feelings on it that I do want to talk about. I would certainly recommend it though as a classic piece of cinema.
Okay, it sounds like we need to do the breakdown. Recommend it to yourself. Recommend it to a general audience, literally anybody on the planet.
I think I would recommend it more to myself than I would other people.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I can think of a number of people that would really enjoy this. I can think of a greater number of people that might enjoy this.
Yeah, I think this movie is contentious in that way. There are certain elements that I think would immediately turn certain people off.
Yeah.
And we'll get into those in spoilers. So I don't often say this, but if you usually turn it off before spoilers and then go and watch the movie so you can follow with us through spoilers and turn it back on, hopefully. But if you usually do that, you might want to listen a little bit into spoilers because it might give you a better idea of whether or not this movie is something that you're truly going to enjoy.
Yeah, if you venture into spoiler territory and you've decided, yes, I'm going to watch it, I'm going to turn this off, feel free to do that. But if you make it through that turning point and you've decided this movie is not for me, feel free to listen to the podcast and listen to all the gory details. But I'm with Colin in the sense that I feel like you should at least tiptoe into spoilers territory in order to find out if this is worth it.
Spoilers is taking a shower and you are a pervy 13-year-old boy. Don't go rushing into the bathroom, but maybe listen and imagine.
Yeah.
Announce yourself first.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just coming in. I forgot my hairbrush. And then, you
shake the handle a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's Mrs. Jones.
Me and Mrs. Jones. We got a thing going on.
Yeah.
Both know that it's wrong, but it's much too strong.
You really brought in the falsetto there. I appreciated that.
I was transported.
Little Frankie Valley for you.
So are we ready to do that?
Are we ready to what?
Wah, 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 wah.
Wah, 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 wah.
Bwap, bwap, bwap.
Wah, wah. We didn't max it out though. That's good.
Well, yeah, because we're going for subtlety. We're not.
That was very understated. Yeah. No, that was
It was one of the subtler bwap, bwap.
Yeah, people have seen loud.
Yeah.
Now they want neat.
Yeah.
Is that what they want?
Manicured.
Give the people what they want, I say.
Give the people what they want.
A manicured with hair and a pedicured.
Bwap, bwap.
Bleh.
That's the sound my cat makes when she's licked herself too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so
It's also funny he should mention that. That's also the sound that Jackson makes when he licks his cats too much.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but...
Well, there's many jokes in there. Many.
Okay. Let's peel back the layers of the onion, shall we? Or do we want to get right into the movie?
We gotta start dishing about this because we've been wanting to talk about it since it stopped, and I'm ready.
Okay, so
How's it start?
Bwah, bwah, bwah. We are in spoiler territory. I will say, I think this movie, I feel like, has a lot of little pockets that we could eddy in for a while. I think we can do broad strokes on this. So I'm going to go along at a clip, if you guys want to sort of match pace.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get through the nuts and bolts pretty quick, and then we're going to eddy a long time in the fucking details. Okay, so basically the movie opens on a trailer park, and it becomes very clear that the main character... Alex is the son of the trailer park owner, and he's kind of responsible for fixing a lot of shit, and he feels like he's going nowhere in life, and he wants to go somewhere. It becomes apparent that is going to be more and more difficult, where he wants to go to college and stuff like that, and roadblocks are sort of getting tossed in the way. That being said, the trailer park community he is in seems reasonably supportive. They seem like a fairly tight-knit community. Did anybody else notice they had a fucking bar?
Yeah, dude.
That's pretty boss. I gotta say, I wouldn't be psyched to live there because of the climate. It looked like maybe,
It looked like Arizona,
Nevada, New Mexico, yeah. Which also sort of tracks with what we hear later about where the machine was headed. It was headed to Vegas.
Right.
But, so, not really into the climate, but, living in, a small community with a whole bunch of, really fucking
Cool people.
Like a diverse group of people that are really all cool with each other. And then there's just a bar right there that we can all fucking chill at.
See, that's the thing is, I grew up in a climate like that, so I would be right at home.
You were in Washington.
Yeah, everything east of the Cascades is dead. Look up Yakima.
You know what? I'm going to look this up. And so help me. If it's not dead, there's one fucking living thing.
You gonna kill it?
No, I'm just going to be really disappointed in
Bro,
Jackson.
we used to keep tumbleweeds as pets.
Oh, no. That's worse than a Winston. That's worse than a Winston.
A Winston?
Yeah, from
Castaway.
Wilson.
That's Wilson. Yeah, Jackson, that's Wilson, not Winston. You silly goose.
That was the first thought in my head was fucking Wilson, and I was like, no.
He couldn't mean Wilson.
It is notoriously difficult to get a collar and a leash on a tumbleweed.
It's easier than you'd think.
Well, if you tranquilize him, sure, but we're humane, Jackson. Jesus Christ.
Tranquilizers are humane. They don't feel anything, okay?
Well, no, because tranquilizers are inanimate objects. It's the things you stick them in that feel the thing.
All right, well, if you want to get technical...
Let's get technical.
I can't... What?
Let's get technical about Alex. So Alex is in this community. He's not happy there, but...
Everybody loves him.
But everybody loves him, and he does love everybody. He just wants the fuck out. And there is a single arcade game that is just outside this bar, and he plays it pretty regularly. He's very good at it. One night, he basically beats the game. I was going to say, like, he gets the high score, which is kind of what they say, but, like, I feel like high score implies that, like, you don't finish the game necessarily. Like,
no, he killed the, what did they call it? The mothership?
Yeah, the Zur and the something Armada.
Yeah. The Kodan Armada.
Kodan Armada. So it was the Kodan Armada mothership or communication ship or something.
Yeah.
He gets a score over 1 million, but you get the impression that, like, the whole town plays the game. You know, there's, like, this guy named Otis who's, like, just hanging out near the arcade. And,
he's
like,
the token black guy.
This was a diverse community.
Okay. I think he was like the token, like, sage older gentleman. He gave, like, really good advice. He was a good listener. Lived all by himself.
But
like,
everybody knew him and everybody loved him.
Yeah.
I loved him. I mean...
He was a pretty cool dude. I'd hang with Otis.
I would be pretty happy to have that guy next door.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So, yeah, like Mark said, you kind of get the vibe that everybody is aware of this game and sort of where its limits are. Alex blows past that one night, and everybody, like, literally the whole fucking town, the whole fucking community comes out to cheer him on, and he beats it, and it's a huge thing, and yada, yada, yada.
He's like a celebrity overnight.
And in a fit of frustration at one point, he walks back out to the front of the community where the game is, and a car pulls up and basically is looking for the person who beat the game. Through a series of what are, let's say, questionable decisions, he gets into the car, and then the car takes off, flies into space, and ends up flying to, is it Rylon?
Yes.
Or Rylos?
Rylos.
It flies to this planet that's in the game, Rylos, and he basically gets told, you are a starfighter, you are going to pilot the same ship that is you've seen in this game, and you're going to light up some alien motherfuckers, which, come on, I mean...
I'd be down, honestly.
Pretty cool, especially...
I think it would.
You grow up in a trailer park, nothing ever happens, and you spend your days fixing Elvira's electric and hanging Otis's TV antenna.
What could be better than killing aliens?
Right?
Right? So he goes there, in what is a very, like, appropriate decision, decides, this is not for me. I'm literally putting my life on the line for a war that I've never heard of and have no idea what the consequences are.
Well, at that point, he's been kind of kidnapped. Like, he's coaxed into the car, but then, like...
Under false pretenses.
Yeah, once the door closes, the car's driving 300 miles an hour or something. Like, it shows the speedometer for a second. Like, he can't get out, and then...
Yeah.
So he's kidnapped, basically.
And perhaps this is the time, because this is the introduction of the character, we should go into... Centauri.
Dude, Centauri was one of my favorites.
He was fucking boss. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts on Centauri, and you guys just fucking hit me with your thoughts on it. Centauri, 1/3 Alec Guinness's version of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
1/3 Doctor Who.
Okay.
1/3 Ford Prefect. Right?
I got a little bit of, like, the Candyman from Willy Wonka as well.
Oh, wow.
You know, like, weirdly animated and, like extroverted.
But I feel like that's That's Ford Prefect and early Doctor Who.
So if you were to take all three of those personality traits and wrap them in a candy-coated Charlton Heston, that's Centauri.
Okay.
But that's perfect because this entire movie is just, at least in my opinion, we can talk about it now, is like a collection of other movies that I like mushed together.
That is exactly what it is. And actually, this is the perfect scene to talk about it because getting into likes, I thought the score was spectacular.
Yeah.
I
Oh, the
thought
score was amazing.
They spared no fucking expense on the score. And I initially noticed it and then later realized why. They realized how iconic movies like Star Wars and Back to the Future were based strictly on their score. This fucking movie, the car flying into the...
It was a fucking DeLorean.
It was a DeLorean.
It was a souped-up DeLorean.
And the music, were you listening to the music?
Yeah.
The score at that point was like almost beat for beat fucking Back to the Future. It was amazing.
Yep.
So, yes, total mashup, and that scene straight out of Back to the Future.
Yeah, so they took the idea from Tron, combined it with Back to the Future, and then launched him into Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that was a brilliant move on their part because they were able to avoid any sort of copyright infringement. They were able to take the tropes that were popular and mash them all into one movie.
Yeah, I mean, when this movie started, like, I was waiting to see John Williams' name pop up in the credits.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just the way this movie even just starts, you know, the soundtrack is very familiar.
Yeah, it's big. It's bigger than a movie like this should be. It's big in a Star Wars way, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Centauri, who is Obi-Wan, Doctor Who, Ford Prefect, Charlton Heston.
Candyman.
See, you guys keep saying Candyman, and I'm thinking of like the fucking horror movie Candyman, and it was just like maybe Candyman antithesis, right? Like he is the opposite of. He's extremely animated. He's supposed to be like an alien, kinda, but he's also like, well, he's an alien, but he's like
Or is he a robot?
He's got like I think he's an alien because
later
his body went into like hibernative neptosis and to repair itself.
He's an alien that's obsessed with Earth culture.
He
dresses like a human. He wears a human mask. He talks like a human.
Human cosplay, let's say.
And, like his extroversion, or like his mannerisms are so like over the top that you immediately feel like you already know this person.
Fucking so far over the top.
Yeah.
but like
so far over the top.
But almost like a David Attenborough. Is that the right Attenborough? Which
You talking about the nature documentary
yeah,
guy?
like his voice is just so...
David Attenborough, and then there's Richard Attenborough. Richard Attenborough was Jurassic Park. He was...
Okay, so I had it right.
That's his brother.
David. Okay, yeah. But
Nature
like,
doc guy.
just the way that he enunciates his words, his sentence structure, like he's just very familiar.
Oh yeah, his diction is amazing.
Like you feel like he's
But I feel
narrator.
like David Attenborough is also very like subdued in his voice. He's very like calming. This dude is like
is not
fucking like
he's manic.
Yeah, yes, that's a good way of putting it. His face contorts, and let's paint a picture. This is also part of the Doctor Who Ford Prefect aspect. He's literally wearing like a floor-length tan peacoat with a bow tie and a fedora. Like, I mean, the guy screams sci-fi trope of a time and space traveling alien, right?
Who got his dates wrong? You know, he's dressing for the century that he's picking this kid up out of nowhere, but he doesn't realize that he's halfway through the wrong century and is behind the times.
That's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Brother, I'm halfway through the century and behind the times.
But I guess my connection to the Attenborough was just like in the distinctness that he
Yeah, he's very
delivers.
articulate. Yeah, his words are very punchy.
Yeah.
Okay, so he fucking straight up kidnaps this high schooler kid.
Yep.
Takes him to Rylos, and the kid's like, okay, so this is pretty dangerous. I don't think I want to be here right now.
Yeah, he sits through the mission briefing and he's like, wait, this is what you brought me here for? Yeah, I'm out. Nope.
To just fight in a war?
To just fight in a war with aliens that I've never met, for a planet I've never heard of, in a ship that I've only played it in a video game, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Centauri,
basically, let's give a modern example of this. You go to Des Moines, Iowa. You go to a high school and get a kid in your car, drive them to a plane that you have waiting on a tarmac, fly them to Ukraine, and then say, okay, so the Russians are invading Ukraine, and there's no reason to believe that they'll stop once they get Ukraine. Here's a gun. Go kill some Russians.
Yep.
That's
what happened.
That is like a modern analog to what fucking straight up happened to this kid. But it's set in a fun, playful, and jaunty 80s context.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're kind of going there going like, come on, kid, don't be a little bitch. Like, fucking kill some aliens.
Dude, that scene where all the other starfighters are there, it reminded me of the bounty hunter scene from, was that Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
As he's having second thoughts, he kind of mentions, that this seems like really dangerous, and Centauri kind of has this quick little line. I forget how he says it, but he's like, no, it's totally safe. It's totally safe. And just around that time, the big baddie of the movie, what's his name? Zurg. Pops up in this hologram that covers the entire room.
Jor-El floating head.
Yeah.
Literally projected it into the base.
Yeah.
This
is
man
a pretty baller power move, let's be honest.
This man is fucking evil. Just the way he delivers it, I was good.
The maniacal laughter, too, was just so over the top in such a great way.
It definitely feels like, I don't know what that alien would have looked like as a baby, but I feel like they should have known this from day one.
Oh yeah, that kid was born evil.
Came out of the mother or materialized through a
mucous membrane.
Mother genetics and fluids were, occurring. And
hatched out of an egg.
Yeah. And out came this child, and everybody looked at it and went, well, that thing's fucking evil.
Yep.
Yeah, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Burn
it!
I can't give you details, but down the road, this will be a problem.
Bury the boy.
So he leaves. He goes back home.
Yeah.
Which is, the most appropriate decision.
And Centauri reluctantly is like, what? You know what? Fine. I'll take you home. And she loads him up in the DeLorean. You can just see him. You can't hear the dialogue, but you can see Centauri muttering through the...
At one point, he literally calls him a spoiled brat.
Yeah. And he's just like, spoiled brat. And he looks through the window, and he's just muttering things and just being a grumpy old man. Finally takes him back, and his space car breaks down. So he's underneath the car, just banging around on shit. And Alex is like, all right, I'm gonna go. See you never. And Centauri waves a foot at him.
Yeah.
He should have called a space mechanic.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I don't want to tell other people how to live their lives, but, I mean, that's
literally what Sextuple A is for.
Yeah. If your space car breaks down, you call it a space mechanic.
Yeah.
Don't try and fix it yourself.
No.
That is, Sextuple A is there for a reason. You pay them. Call them.
Also, if you're going to try and fix your space car in another planet of uncharted space, it's going to void the warranty.
Probably.
Or you think it's like a John Deere kind of thing?
Yeah.
No, there's no right to fix in space politics.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a DeLorean.
Fucking Rylos, get with the times.
Jesus.
Right to fix is important. You bought that product, it's yours. Fucking space cars.
Yep.
Apple.
Yep.
God damn it.
Okay, so I think it's around this time where we get our first glimpse at the
The Glorgon.
The Zandozan.
Was it a Zandozan?
Yeah.
We can call them Glorgons because, what the fuck, dude? These guys were ugly as hell. They had eyes.
He's talking about us.
No, the aliens were.
The aliens
cute,
look
actually.
totally normal,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm having an off day. It happens.
How does that happen? Does he see the ship fall down?
So the Zandozan somehow knows that the last Starfighter has been transported back to Earth because they tracked its movement through the Armada, and they were like, hey, there was a ship that escaped the planet. Go find it. And so this, space assassin with hammerhead eyes and fish face.
Space Assassin.
Space Assassin.
Is that a band name?
Yes.
Space Assassin?
Space Assassin.
Yeah.
Space Assassin also sounds a little like a cooking oil.
It kind of does.
All right, add a little Space Assassin to the pan. Fry up some onions.
It could be a neon version of Iron Maiden. It also could be a spice.
It could also be a trick performed by some kind of intergalactic prostitute. We are Space Assassin.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm just saying.
Is that like shooting the ping pong ball out of the...
Out of the what?
Out of the hoo-ha?
Ha-ha?
Yeah.
Wait, hang on. I I want to know details about. I want to know about structures. I want to know about relative positions of everything involved in space Asin. Mark, go.
I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like you go in and somebody
Okay,
comes
so we're
over
going
here.
in.
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's a guy over here, and there's another guy over here. Could be
Right.
a girl over here, but the third could be a guy, could be a girl. And
So 1.5 guys.
One and a half
Half a
guys.
girl.
one person's floating up here, one person's floating down there.
We've got to do this in zero gravity.
Yeah.
This guy's got a pencil in his butt, and this guy's taking notes.
Wait,
With
is he
the pencil?
Is he taking notes with the first
It's
guy?
anti-gravity, so
So I'm imagining him just holding the first guy in one of his hands with like a very large hand wrapped around a torso, a pencil sticking out of his bum,
Yep.
and he is just taking notes on a pad floating in space. Is that accurate?
Yep. And this is
Okay.
where the other
Yeah.
girl or the
He's
other guy
basically
comes
one
in.
of those like rubber grippy things from like the 80s that you had in school.
Yeah, like the erasers.
It's that, but it's just a human body. Okay, I got it.
Doesn't have to be human. Just has to be a body.
That's right. It has to be a body and it has to have a butthole.
Yep.
These are our criteria.
Yep. And then there's a third person who's kind of sitting there with the camera, not taking pictures, just kind of nodding their head.
Just a sexual camera.
Yes.
This is
Sex camera.
sex camera. This is sex cam. This is a sexual prop. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Is that space Asin?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
He did get space in there. I'm actually kind of impressed that
Yeah.
this could track.
Yeah. I felt like it was all garbage, but I appreciate that you guys like the bit.
Yeah.
I'm
working
in on
it.
this.
So what happens next?
With Space Assassin? Okay, we forgot to mention that when Alex is initially kidnapped, a body double is pushed out the car.
The
more or
beta
less.
unit.
Yeah, this is important because all of his friends and family at this point have no idea that he's gone when he leaves to space.
Yeah, it shakes his hand and basically absorbs his genetic googly muck.
Oh, was that
And-
how that happened?
Yeah, when like he shook his hand, it was like pew! And like there was a spark, it absorbed his genetic googly muck, and then
God, he
turned
was
into him.
Horrifying. That made me uncomfortable. When we first
Yeah,
saw him.
Mark and I both made a very concerned face when we saw the beta unit in progress.
That was the only time where Mark's raging semi went away, and I popped a raging semi.
I can verify that.
There were flaps.
Yep.
Okay, so yes, the beta unit is running around pretending to be Alex. Meanwhile, Alex came back to Earth, killed a Xandazan,
And then
and then kind of fucked back off to space and was like, actually, I gotta help them out because the Xandazans are just gonna keep coming.
Yeah.
Centauri gets shot.
By the Xandozan.
He gets shot in the shot place. This is the place where everybody who gets shot in a movie, if the character is too important, they get shot in this place. And it's just important enough to where you could die or not, but it's not so important that you would die immediately. You can like hide it for a bit and sort of limp to safety.
it just
And-
knocks you out of a few scenes.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is to say the lower side quadrant of your like abdomen. You get shot there. Oftentimes, nobody will know that you've been shot, and then off scene where nobody can see you, you pull back your jacket to reveal a blood spot, and you go, "Damn it."
Or in the case of Centauri, you put your hand on your communicator and you see black-green goo.
Presumably blood
Presumably.
or alien fluids.
That's space blood.
It's blood.
Blood.
So he goes back to the base.
So he goes back to the Starfighter base, and the hangar had been destroyed. So basically, all of the ships and all of the Starfighters are clinically dead.
Yeah, Zur did his thing.
And they threw a fucking
Meteors.
at him, which is a pretty baller move.
They had a
Like,
meteor cannon. How badass is that?
honestly, like, why are you sitting here like creating munitions? Like, the universe is our munitions,
Yeah.
right? Grab some big rocks and throw them at people, right? It's fucking kids these days. They need
Right.
they need special guns and ammunition and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Back in my day, we threw meteors at people,
Yeah.
and
And
we
blew up their space hangars.
We killed them just as dead.
Yep.
Worked for the dinosaurs.
It sure did. Was that our day? Are we that old now?
Well, okay, so he meets up with another character, one of my favorites. What's his name?
Grig.
Greg. He's a Drax.
Oh my god, he's straight up Drax.
He is 100% Shizma.
Shizma.
Shizma. No, okay, so if you've seen our other review for the movie Enemy Mine, the alien species in that...
Aw, that was my first episode.
It sure was.
Memories.
The pause. Was
Yeah, that really made it. Yeah. The moment of stoic reflection. Memories.
So he meets up with him. He's quick-witted.
They straight up could have taken the fucking suit from Enemy Mine.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And just fucking made this. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think they just, left it out in the sun for a little bit, and then now they've got a Grig. But yeah, he's his co-pilot. Alex does the shooting. Grig does the driving.
Does he do the driving?
Yeah, so he's the navigator.
I know he does the navigation and the life support systems and that. I didn't know he did the driving too.
Yeah, he also did the driving because during
Right.
some of the action scenes, Alex would be like, evasive maneuvers, and then...
That's true. Okay.
So.
I guess that kind of makes sense because, I think the bread and butter of this movie, it was kind of two things. This movie was basically trying to capitalize on the energy and excitement around video arcades in the 1980s. So everybody was going to all the kids were going to video arcades. They were playing these games. A lot of them were space themed, shooting things and blah, blah, blah. And somebody came up with the idea, what if that was a fucking movie? And, what if it was a test for something when you'd have to do basically the exact same thing that you do in the video arcade? What if you had to do that in space for real? Which is a fucking cool concept.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no fucking qualms about it. That's what they were trying to do, to the point where Grig is talking him through the controls in the same way that you might get a tutorial in the beginning of a video game.
Yeah.
Grab the stick, take a couple practice shots, do this, do that, hit this button.
You're ready to play. Let's go.
Exactly, in the same way that an NPC sort of walks you through the beginning of a video game so you get the controls. Grig was doing that in a very overt way so as to signpost, hey, this movie is supposed to be about, video games. The other thing that they were going for clearly was to capitalize on the success of other movies that saw a great deal of fanfare and, things like Star Wars, things like Back to the Future. And the scenes were oftentimes, what seemed to me at least, modeled after specific scenes in these other movies, like we've already said. So, as far as him, being a gunner, the vibes I was getting was, Luke in the Millennium Falcon, Luke and Han with the fucking turret,
where it's rotating in every single direction, and yeah.
Yep, very much so. So at this point, and we're not really necessarily in criticisms, but I feel like when he went back out, that was it.
Yeah.
His next confrontation was the final battle. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why I may not even endorse the adventure genre that we talked about earlier, because for me an adventure movie is one where you go to many different places and you have this long journey. This movie keeps it pretty tight. The scenes are, you've got the trailer park, you've got the spaceship, and you've got the base. And that's it. And they kind of alternate between these three different environments. And so I think that was part of the reason why I felt like it dragged on for me a little bit, was just kind of because of that.
Well, I don't necessarily agree fully. I do think adventure does deserve to be a part of the genres. You do make a very compelling argument there. You do. That was a very convincing argument. I would still probably apply adventure, but I will give you that it's a weak application. It is not a classic adventure movie in that sense. It's
situationally adventurous, but not traversally.
I wish your face could make it onto the microphone, because they're is that a word? Yeah, well, I'm not. You know what? Fuck it. I'm committing to it. I'm going to
say it. So they do the little practice shots, and then they come across this Kodan cargo ship. They follow it into this asteroid, and that's pretty much where they camp out for the rest of the film.
Okay, hang on. Let's just real quick. Kodan, when used in that way, makes it feel like you're doing that thing where you substitute a swear word for a non-swear word.
Oh, like Goram?
Yeah, that Kodan.
That Kodan ship.
Kodan cargo ship. So
cost me about $350.
I feel like we should adopt that. I make a formal submission, a formal pledge that Kodan will now be our new goddamn.
Kodan. Yeah.
Kodan cargo ship.
Kodan.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to start.
Back to the Kodan.
When you're confused later that I'm slipping Kodan into
I can dig it.
As long as you don't slip Kodan in my drink.
Oof.
Okay, I did not... Okay, when I made this submission, I did not fully appreciate how Kodan also does sound a little date rapey.
Yeah.
So
it's very similar to codeine.
Damn.
I'm gonna...
Damn.
Oh, God.
I am going to... I'm gonna chew on this,
Okay.
and I'm gonna get back to you guys with whether or
Don't
not...
chew on the codeine too
I
much,
will
because you'll
be-
get really high off of that shit. Oh, we lost him. We lost him!
Yep. Okay, so where were you?
Yeah, so they're pretty much hanging out on this asteroid where they destroy this cargo ship, and that's when Alex decides that he really is the last starfighter and he's committed to this. So then he has this brilliant idea of, hey, why don't we just hang out here since they can't find us until they pass by, and then we'll shoot them from behind.
Well, yeah, and the kind of significant part about that is all of the fighters in the enemy squadron can fight together as one unit because they're being, like, controlled and coordinated by this mothership that's behind them.
The command ship.
The command ship. So they're basically, like, waiting for the fighters to pass by. They want to knock out the command ship so that the fighters have to basically... They're all independent fighters now, and they can destroy them, more effectively.
Yeah, so he takes out the turret, the main turret on the command ship, and then takes out communications, eliminates their guns, so they're essentially just a floating barge in space now. They still have command of their engines, but that's basically it. So then he and Grigg systematically eliminate all of the rest of the fighters, and they have this one, like, doomsday weapon that they call Death Blossom, which has this really cool effect. So they get surrounded, and they're completely outnumbered. There's like 50-1, and he's like, I think we should use Death Blossom. He's like, not yet! Wait until they're all in range! And he goes,
Basically, wait until you see the whites of their eyes.
yeah, and he goes, now? And he goes, not yet! Now? Not yet! Now! So then he presses the button, and the ship, the Gunstar that they're flying, immediately pivots in every direction at light speed, just firing lasers indiscriminately, and eliminates all of the enemy fighters. Which was this really cool moment. It was a really cool scene, but it was sort of the...
Which actually, it makes sense that they would need to be, like, within a certain range, because the density of those lasers would drop off at a rate of 1 over r squared.
Right.
Just
And your accuracy...
little physics for you
Your
guys.
accuracy just disintegrates at that point. So it really has to be within a radius of about 80 meters or so. Give or take 1 or 2.
I was thinking yards, but sure.
Yeah.
See, this is why NASA crashed into
Right?
fucking Mars, guys.
God
Come
damn
on.
it. So yeah, they hit the resolve all plots button, and then they go after the command ship.
Okay, little aside. We can cut this out later if this doesn't land. But does anybody else feel like Death Blossom could be the name of the naughty bits of a partner who would otherwise be destructive or detrimental to your life and well-being? Like, just think of somebody who you may or may not know in your past who was just filled with red flags, but they had
But
that...
they were super hot.
they had that Death Blossom.
Yeah.
That just lured you in.
Yeah.
And, it was truly a blossom of
It's
death.
like a fully flowered stinging nettle.
Yes.
It'll kill you, but it's pretty.
But it's pretty...
See, I went more like constipation with that. Like the dripping death blossom of an
That
anus
sounds like-
that you
that-
have
yeah,
after
yeah,
a real raucous cheese block.
like really aggressive hemorrhoids.
Mark, that sounds like a prolapse, and I think you need to see a doctor.
No, it's cool. I pushed it back up.
Just stay away from Howie Mandel.
Yeah, it's fine. You cover your nose and you suck in real hard, and anything that happens to be hanging.
Hang on. Do that one more time. Okay, that's how it works. Okay,
Yeah,
I got it.
See, I was thinking Death Blossom would be a really cool name for a metal band.
Again, I feel like Death Blossom conjures images that, let's just say...
You don't want. That's a bad onion. That's a sad grape.
But again, I think... it's just fucking sad grape. No, I feel like the sad grapes is what you get after you've, like, just decided to, like, lean into the Death Blossom.
Yeah.
Like, when you've tangoed with the Death Blossom...
Oh, your grapes will never be happy again.
It
You've got the
slides
sad
over.
grapes.
It slides over, goes into sad grape form.
Okay, so
Immediately followed by the Goopadoop.
I feel like the Goopadoop is what you get when you marry somebody who has between their legs a Death Blossom. You get the Goopadoop.
Yep.
You don't want it, but you've got it.
You got it.
You know.
Okay, so as Jackson said, hit the resolve all plots button. They destroy the ship, which, okay, the bad baddie...
Krill?
Yeah.
Or Zur?
Zur.
Okay.
Gets fucking, like, arrested, right? There's a mutiny kind of thing, and he gets arrested. And then he gets away...
He escapes down a garbage chute.
I really feel like, first of all, that was very Star Wars of
Yeah.
them. Second of all, I feel like there was definitely they didn't resolve his plotline at all, and I think they were basically like, let's just field this in theaters and see how it does, and if it does well, we now have a reason to have a second one.
That's exactly what.
That is
did.
100% what happened.
It was a lead into a sequel, and they didn't have enough ROI to make a sequel, so they just forgot about it.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically after that, he went home and picked up his gal and then fucked off into the universe, and here we are. Let's hope she doesn't have a Death Blossom.
Happily never after.
Yeah.
And then roll credits.
Yep. Did you guys feel like almost every single one of the displays was completely ripped out of Star Wars?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
How many Death Star three-dimensional spheres did we see kind of rotating in this movie?
At least 4.
Yeah, also, okay, I wrote this down. It's like, I feel like at the time, this movie was very like, look what we have the ability to do now. And like, what they have the ability to do is now so fucking far from impressive that it's like, it's distracting how bad it is.
What they had the ability to do was marginally worse than the original Tomb Raider.
Oh, the video game.
Yeah.
Not the movie with...
No.
Yeah.
The video game with
yeah.
triangle boobs.
God, I love triangle boobs.
What's upsetting?
It doesn't.
I bet you she didn't have a Death Blossom.
No.
Well, you don't know. You don't know. But all of the movies that this movie shared DNA with, I felt were significantly better.
Yes. I would agree with
You
that.
know, in all of the ways that they were copying. And I enjoyed this movie, and I'm not trying to, like, shit on it, you know, but, like, the effects. I mean, Star Wars had better effects than this movie did, and that came out, like, a decade earlier.
Yeah.
I think they also, like, Star Wars had a very, like, keen, or George Lucas perhaps, had a very keen understanding of, like, what his limits were, and didn't try to, like, overplay his hand. And I feel like this movie way overplayed their hand.
Although, maybe, I guess, to be fair, too, there was that time when, like, 3D models and CGI were starting to, like, butt heads, and some films went, like, all in one direction or another direction. So it's also just kind of the times where, like, we didn't realize that when we were investing all of this money in the CGI effects, that it was completely bunk. Like, I feel like at the time, and this movie came out well before I was born, but, like, we didn't notice it like we do now.
No, exactly. But, and the other thing is, like, you know, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, fucking practical effects are always good.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This movie is split about 50-50 on, like, what they wanted to do with CGI and what they had to do with practical effects. And the stuff they had with practical effects, you know, might look a little goofy, but, like, it's, like, endearing and it's natural and it's fun. There were fucking people sitting there in costumes.
All of the aliens were wearing latex masks.
There was a physical car that they, like, got into that was all spacey and shit.
Yeah. No, I was gonna mention that because, like, I lamented the fact that there weren't enough practical effects in this movie, but I will say the practical effects that they used were so good. And I just really appreciated that. I wish that they had done a little bit more. You know, take the physical car and basically green screen it in space. That would have been great. But they computer generated the car in the flying space scenes, which was a little disappointing, but whatever. It was 1984. The action sequences, obviously you can do practical effects for a Starfighter, but this is not a Star Wars.
This is not a Star Wars.
It cheated off of Star Wars homework and got several of the answers wrong because of a lack of interpretation.
Well, you also, like, you have to intentionally get a couple wrong
in order to pass, because otherwise you get caught cheating.
Yes, exactly. You're going to get caught cheating. So you have to intentionally get some shit wrong.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Even that scene where, like, he first meets the hammerhead, I don't know.
The Zandozan.
Yeah.
The glib.
When he got his, like, when he got his arm shot off, and then, like, it hit the ground, I felt like that was the scene from the cantina.
A New Hope.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many, like, little beats, like, in this movie that, like, this is that movie.
Even a lot of the aliens looked similar.
Yeah. Again, what is the name of like the bald aliens?
The Rylons?
In Star Wars?
No, in the Starfighter.
Oh yeah,
I'm fairly certain they were Rylons from the planet of Rylos.
They felt like Star Trek aliens.
Big time. Very reminiscent of the Ferengi.
Yeah.
Or like were the brain people in the very first episode of Star Wars.
Oh jeez.
Did you guys watch Babylon 5?
I know. I watched Babylon 1 through 4, and I fucking never got to the 5th one.
I watched like the first 3 episodes of B5.
I want to say they were called the Centauri.
I know that in Babylon 5 there was a race of people called the Centauri.
This is going to be a Anthony Starr situation if Mark's right.
Fuck yeah!
Oh man, he got it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that is them. Yeah.
So
it's them a little bit older.
Yeah.
Because they're gray.
So basically what I'm trying to say is these guys were like the Centauri from Babylon 5.
And Centauri was one of them.
Yeah, that was definitely another Anthony Starr situation. Also, this helps Space Olympics from Lonely Island. Mm-hmm. Andy Samberg's character in Space Olympics.
Yes.
That's what they looked like.
Yep.
Big old heads, a Friar Tuck type situation with their hair that's all white. And
middle balding.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Couple other things that I wanted to touch on. Did anybody else get swept up in the record-breaking scene?
A little bit.
I got really into it.
Like, the whole town is freaking out. Like, everybody comes running over to the arcade box, and they're like...
Old ladies are running out.
Oh, yeah. Old ladies are like, good job, Alex! We're so proud of you!
They're, like, hugging each other in, like, jubilation. Like, the old lady's behind him while he's playing the game. Everybody's jazzed about this.
I was really into that.
Yeah.
Also, I felt like it's such a fucking cheap device that, like, movies use a lot of times that I feel like they could have very easily done, which is basically, like, he loses in that scenario, and everybody's like, oh, well, good job anyway. And then, like, later in the night, all by himself, he's like, I got one more quarter in my pocket. Ching! And he, like, beats the game, like, alone in the dark. I feel like that's the kind of shit that would happen nowadays, and it would just annoy the fucking shit out of me.
But that's, like literally the intro to Tron, though, is, like, he loses the game, everybody walks out of the arcade, and he has 1 quarter left, and he beats the game and then gets zapped into it.
I'll zap you into it.
Please do. It's been a while.
Fucking straight up, what is that, Scott Baio? No, Scott Bakula. I'm gonna Scott Bakula the shit out of you.
Just gonna quantum leap me.
I'm gonna quantum leap the fuck out of you.
Wow. That was a nice pitch shift there.
Okay, so the other thing, okay, I've been just like waiting to discuss this. Can we talk about when they're in the asteroid and there is a very noticeable and palpable air of moral ambiguity about him literally killing another living thing?
Oh yeah.
Like, I feel like there has never in all of the movies in the history of forever, there has never been a situation where a human is poised to kill an alien and then suffers from like an attack of conscience. That has never happened, and he's literally like sitting there sweating about killing this unknown alien while another alien is egging him on and just going like, do it, fucking kill him, and he's the good guy. Like, why did they write that in?
No, it was a beautiful moment. Honestly, it was great because he's like, I can't do this, and Greg's like, yeah, you can, you got him, fucking kill him, dude.
It's just a video game, who cares?
Why did they even have that as an element in the movie? I mean, it was refreshing, I guess, in a certain sense. Like, it was nice to know that, like, he's not killing indiscriminately, and he actually is, like, reflecting on the consequences of his actions. But ultimately, like, to think of it as, like, a nameless, faceless alien that he's slaughtering, I think for the viewer is, like, a little bit it's a lower bar, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, because now I feel guilty that he just killed a whole bunch of aliens that probably have, like, you know, families.
These could be the Drax.
Is this it? Is this like the prequel to Enemy Mine?
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Guys, we figured it out. This is like
code cracked.
This is Tommy Westphal style, like, conspiracy theories here. Yeah. We figured this fucking shit out.
I left my tinfoil hat at home, but
okay. So this movie, let's say, had pretty high highs and pretty low lows.
Yeah, Yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
But I think the things that it did well, it did very well. I think the things that it did poorly, they were like noticeably bad. Let's just like top strokes, things you liked.
We've covered a lot of this too. Was there any things that you liked that we haven't already covered? We spent a lot of time talking about the score and some of the other elements.
You know me, I'm a sucker for cinematography.
God, here he comes.
It was the 80s, I don't expect much.
I think as far as cinematography goes, it was pretty fucking
It was
baller.
pretty stellar as far as, like
you're in a fucking turret, like, spinning around, like...
Literally in the stars. It's quite stellar.
There was one point that I really appreciated where, like, they're showing him in the cockpit moving in every direction, right? But then they did that classic heads-up display, and they showed his targeting computer and fixed the camera to the targeting computer and moved it around as if he was piloting the camera. And I thought, that was super fucking cool. So, A+ on the cinematography. It was 1984. Again, I don't expect much. So, they exceeded my expectations. If this movie were made today, I would have much higher expectations.
Yeah, but if this movie were made today, it would be made by Michael Bay.
Yeah, and there'd be a lot more explosions.
Just everything would be exploding.
Yep.
Like, the second Centauri recruited him, he would get to the place and he'd just be like, guess what? And he would blow up. You'd be like, oh shit, Centauri just exploded.
Yeah.
And then it would go off.
The beta unit would get shot while he's macking with mags, and it would just explode into this fireball.
Starfighter base would just assemble into a giant fucking robot that can fly through space and use a laser sword.
Yep. And the laser sword would hit the Kodan command ship, but the Kodan command ship is immune to laser swords, and the robot would blow up.
And then it would cut to the command center of the robot jobby, and they would go, ha ha! No, sorry, they would go,
oh, why didn't we talk about that yet?
All right, everybody, on 3. Let's all give each other COVID. 1, 2, 3.
Oh my god.
I wonder how well that came in on the microphone. If you don't know what we're doing, we're exhaling. The end.
Yep, that's accurate.
Yep.
We're in dislikes, right? Or are we in likes?
We're in likes.
Wait, hang on. We really probably should explain what the fuck that was.
Yeah.
Greg had the most airy laugh of any character I've seen ever. His laughs, it's like he starts laughing, but then he doesn't.
It's somewhere between an exhale and a wheeze.
Yeah.
I went too old man in that. But
yeah, that was a little too far over the line.
Yeah, more alien, less old man.
Yeah. Old alien.
Yes.
Yeah.
Old alien.
Elderland.
Now that sounds like a product that would be marketed intergalactically. Maybe an aftershave or a cologne. Pick up a bottle of Old Alien if you want to smell like the stars.
Ooh.
Do you ever struggle with picking up lady friends in the space cantina? Well, you should probably try picking up a bottle of Old Alien. You can rest assured you'll never sleep alone again.
Get your bleeps, your blops, and your hibblibbliblies. Yeah. Because that's what aliens got. They got
the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
The what, and the what? Okay, so things we did like, right before we go to things we didn't like, fucking just filled with 80s cheese.
Oh, yeah.
It's an 80s movie. I am so fucking sensitive to these. Like, I love them. I love the vibe. I love everything they give off. It also had like kind of a, and this is, I think, in a good and a bad sense, and I'll explain it when we get to dislikes, but it had kind of a never-ending story vibe. It seemed very similar in some ways. I was a little surprised that we didn't see any of, like, the director wasn't the same kind of thing. Anyway, it felt very big. I loved what it was trying to do. It felt very homey, if that makes sense. And even though it was kind of ripping off a lot of other movies, I would still give it major points for creativity. I really thought it was creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, the setup, the plot was creative. I think had they not borrowed so much DNA from everything else, I think it could have stood more on its own merits. But I can't think of any other movie that had this exact same setup. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah.
Dislikes?
Things that we haven't already talked about. I mean, we talked about the CGI. We talked about the stealing of things. But it's not even something I disliked about. I enjoyed the cinema robbery.
So, a couple things for me that we haven't covered. The acting was, like, way subpar.
Yeah.
The acting was pretty bad, and I would say some of the minor characters did all right. Centauri's acting was, like, well over the top and, like, way too much. Like, he was overacting.
He was really enjoyable.
It was really fun to watch. The rest of the cast kind of fell short in many respects.
Pretty much the entire trailer park was not great.
No, but again, I would take away like a couple of points. I would take away 4 points for that, and then add back 2 because I fucking love how the bad acting actually feeds into the 80s cheese.
And that's
it fits well.
It's a huge component of a classic 80s movie is to have over-the-top verging on bad acting combined with bad acting.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing, there was a lot of very clumsy and blatant exposition. Usually you want to like kind of bury the exposition in like dialogue or like incidentals. They just fucking like, it felt so forced. Like, the way they were giving the viewer information and backstory about what is happening in the war and exactly who all of these people were and what's going on.
They just said it outright.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like the bad guy is like, "Hello, father, it's me, your son." And you're just like, okay, guys. A little subtlety.
Yep, got that from when you said father.
Let's reel it in.
In some ways, it felt like one of those rides at like Disney World where like you're on a track and you're being told everything and like you're not discovering it. It's being presented.
After all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so fucking far over the top with how clumsy it was with that shit. I'm trying to think of like some other example, like the bad guy, but also like the good guy, the wise old man who was the emperor of, you know, the entire universe or some shit.
Yeah.
He was like, basically like, "You're all starfighters and you're all here to fight Zur and the Codon Armada. Zur rebelled against us and did this and blah, blah, blah." You're like, okay, but if you really like take this to pieces, everybody in this room knows exactly what fucking happened.
Yep.
Why is this guy telling them? Why would he be telling them literally anything that they already know? He's not even giving a fucking like inspirational speech. He's just telling them.
He's not even a battle plan.
He's just telling them what is like literally going on in the world.
The only person in that room that wasn't privy to literally all of that information
was the protagonist.
Was Alex.
Yeah.
And it was basically like, "Oh, good, Alex is here. Now we can start the briefing."
Exactly. That is, yes, exactly. Yes. And it wasn't just that. It was all throughout the movie. Just super fucking clumsy.
The amount of times that the beta unit said he was a beta unit could have been a drinking game.
Yep.
But again, adds to the 80s cheese.
Yep.
Okay, one last thing. What the actual fuck was up with the head melting scene?
Dude!
Oh my god!
Yeah, that was really...
Oh my god! Okay, so for like a little bit of backstory... When the big head guy, the big baddie, Zur, was a floating head in their space station as a hologram, he's basically like, "I caught your spy." And then it like cuts to like some television screens and it's literally just this dude strapped to a fucking steel plate with like burns on his face, like he's clearly been tortured. And then this, like, laser lowers itself right above his head and starts beaming, like, a purple laser into the top of his head.
And he just starts screaming.
Just screaming fucking agony while his head is melting. And you're just like, and it goes on. And you're sitting there and you're like, oh my god, this movie, I know, was marketed to children.
The best part about it, though, is like, so they lead up to the scene, right? And he's like, "You'll never conquer Rylon." And he's like, "Oh, really? Then how'd I catch your master spy?" And then his eyes drift over to where the monitor is, where they're about to display the video of him being murdered.
And he's got this look of like, yeah, look over here. Look
Check
over
it
here.
out. Check it out.
Come on, Daddy.
The face melting, it was a lot like Raiders.
It was Raiders.
It was, but like
the wax head.
Raiders, they were Nazis,
and that was so great though, because the actor that's playing this master spy that's getting murdered is sitting there in the chair screaming, and then the camera cuts away to get a reaction shot, and then pans back, and it's a wax head that's just melting.
They revisit it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even like you see the laser shoot and you hear him scream. They shoot the laser. He is screaming in agony.
For like a full 30 seconds.
His fucking head is melting. They cut away for the reaction while he's still screaming in the background. And then they cut back to his fucking head melting. What the fuck was up with the scene?
Why did we have to sit there for like 2 whole minutes and just watch this dude's face melt in slow-mo?
Okay, so let's revisit what I had said prior to spoilers. The reason why I feel like this was marketed towards like 8 to 16-year-olds is like, that was the target demographic for arcade games, and this was very clearly modeled around that. That's what they were going for, right? I cannot fucking imagine an 8-year-old, which I actually may have seen this movie when I was 8, I don't know, but like an 8-year-old watching the head melting scene, like, oh my fucking god. And this is why I would like, again, pre-spoilers, this is why I would absolutely give this movie like a moderate PG-13 rating, not a fucking PG rating.
Yeah, and you put this in things you didn't like. I kind of liked it in that, like, everything up to this point was very, like, cheesy and video gamey. When that happened, it became real, and I think that was the intent in the movie, but, like, it kind of grounded it a little bit for me, Up to that point, these were, like, shitty CGI, spaceships flying around shooting lasers. It didn't feel tangible. It didn't feel like there were really any stakes, even though they repeatedly told us over and over again what the stakes were. That was when I took the bad guys seriously, and I kind of digged on it.
I like the point. I like your argument. I think it's very convincing. I think the reason why it didn't work so well for me, even though you're absolutely right, but I think the reason why it didn't work so well for me was if they had stuck with it. If they'd stuck with that level of, like, seriousness, if there was a true tone shift in the movie following that scene, it would have been more effective. But the fact that it was happy and plucky and kind of like, haha, we're gonna go, like, save the universe, and then it was, like, melting a head and a human screaming in agony, and then it cut back to, like, a relatively plucky plot of, like, haha, we're just, doing aliens and like...
Don't fall off the ride. You'll die.
It was so jarring and so out of place. I mean,
it was great because Alex didn't decide that he wanted to go home until after the face melting, and then was like, yeah, I don't want any of this, and then just goes back home, presuming to live his normal life after learning all of this new information.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely...
That's a life-changing moment.
That's something that would have been difficult to unpack with a therapist when he has PTSD 20 years on. They're like, so why are you suffering from these PTSD symptoms?
Where did your traumas originate?
Yeah, and he's like, this one time I saw a bald alien get his head melted for a full fucking minute while he screamed in agony.
So back in high school, I was abducted by a space alien and taken to Rylon, and then I got to see some dude's face get melted off, and I decided that it wasn't for me.
Okay, I'm just going to write down, in addition to PTSD, borderline personality disorder and...
Must be medicated.
Delusions of grandeur.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any history of schizophrenia in your family?
To be determined.
Okay, I'm going to put you down as patient 0.
Recommendations, padded room.
Right, okay, so anything else that we didn't like, other than, well, maybe we did like head melting?
I don't know. The biggest gripe for me was the dialogue, because the dialogue, while cheesy and 80s and camp, it just felt so removed. Like, Grig and Alex are the last line of defense. They are the only hope for Rylon.
You might say they're the last Starfighters.
It's entirely possible.
Would they be like the second to last? I mean, were they both Starfighters?
I think it was only Alex.
I think Alex was the Starfighter.
Which, like, let's like explore a little bit about how Grig's position is not valued at all in Rylon culture.
No!
He brings a lot more to the table than Alex.
You would think.
He's driving the whole shit.
And he's got all the one-liners. He's
life support systems.
Yep.
He's propping up the Starfighter.
I think what we're finding is that Rylon is an extremely classist society.
Right.
And that basically the people who do all the work on the Gunstars, they're second-class citizens.
Yep.
And that's becoming obvious.
Yep.
It is a little weird that they have, like, a fairly large sector of, presumably, the galaxy. And the most they could conjure for their starfighters was, like, 12 people.
Yeah.
And that was at their height.
Spread across, like, 6 or 7 races or species. It's not exactly, like, the might of the Federation, let's say.
No.
Okay, so are we Laura Dern?
I think so.
I believe we're Laura Dern.
Are we ready to move on to...
Quacks.
Cortez?
Okay. The Cortez.
Don Quixote. All right, I'll start. So one of my quotes comes from Centauri immediately after the aforementioned abduction.
Kidnapping.
Yeah. He straight up just steals this kid out of the middle of nowhere and throws him in the car, and Alex is sitting in the back like, what's going on? Where are we going? Why are you taking me? Like, what is happening? And he goes, well, that's gonna be a little secret, Like, and he says, it's part of an adventure, and that's why I'm not gonna tell you.
It was
He
like...
does this little sing-songy, like...
Dude, his energy was so uncomfortable.
It was chaotic.
Yeah.
It was. He's chaotic good. Like, his alignment is chaotic good, no doubt.
He would refer to himself in the third person and the first person. And then...
In the same sentence.
Yeah. It was weird.
It was beyond weird.
Centauri doesn't like it when you speak to me that way.
That's exactly how it went, though.
No, I do not.
So my second quote is also from Centauri. After they recruit Alex and Alex decides that this is not his thing, Grig is like, oh, Centauri up to his old tricks again. And so they confront him and they're like, Centauri, why do you keep doing this? And he goes, you know how hard it was to invent the games, to merchandise them, to get them into stores before Christmas?
Yeah, you get the impression that, Centauri had this idea to, create a game as the test, and everybody thought he was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
He was playing the long game.
Yep. My third quote is an exchange between Alex and Grig, and he's like, one starfighter against the Armada? It'll be a slaughter. And Grig goes, that's the spirit!
Oh, man. Grig's delivery was so good every time.
That's the spirit. You got it. So, similarly, when he kidnaps a child, when Centauri first pulls up in his creepy white space van...
Space Lorian,
he opens the door, and he's literally, sitting in the shadow of the driver's seat. And I can't remember exactly what Alex says to him, but it basically, we don't have any vacancy, or we're not open, or something like that. And Centauri responds with, I'm not here for cigarettes or bubblegum, my boy.
Yeah, he says, store's closed.
That's what it is. Yeah. That would make a great t-shirt. I'm not here for cigarettes or bubblegum, my boy.
Yeah, just the way that those words, came out of his mouth, and with his delivery.
So my next quote, I partially like it because it's hilarious, but I also like it because I have a friend, Petey. I guess I'm the only person who's allowed to call him that. But his real name is Chris, and he was, let's say, an awkward swearer when he was younger. His parents were not from here; they were from Poland, so they didn't do a lot of swearing in English, and he was a little unaccustomed to it. And he had an interesting way of swearing when we were kids. And so one of his favorite things to say was, "What the shit?" or "What the damn shit?"
And what the damn shit?
And in the movie, Lewis wakes up while Beta is trying to fix part of his ear.
For context, Lewis is Alex's little brother.
Yes,
I don't think we covered that.
For sure, thank you. And Beta, in order to get better access to his ear, takes his head off and puts it on the desk, which is this scene, I think part of it, even though it's kind of a funny scene, I feel was inspired by a lot of John Carpenter movies, The Thing, I think, had a piece of this scene in it. So the head is just sitting on the desk, and Lewis looks up and sees his head fucking moving on the desk while a headless body is sitting at the chair, and he just goes, "What the shit?" And then, of course, the head looks up and goes, "Lewis, you're having a very bad nightmare. Go back to sleep," which is just so fucking creepy.
Lewis peeks again, and he just goes, "Lewis!"
Okay, and the last quote. I feel there were a number of these throughout the movie where they, again, almost swore but didn't. And at one point, Centauri says to Alex, after they defeat the Xanadu... The Zipzan, the
Xanadu.
Oh, the
Zaxxar?
Yeah.
Xerxes. After they defeated Xerxes, and, Leonidas had sort of left. Zandazan. Centauri says to him, "Get a good look, Alex. You can bet your asteroids there's going to be more of them."
Bet your asteroids.
You bet your asteroids.
I'm going to use that.
Yes.
I'm going to use that in my life.
You can bet your asteroids.
So, my quotes. My first one's from Beta. There's a bit when Alex, he leaves, he comes back. This is on his chicken shit tour when he's back, when he's back on Earth. He's...
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, no, he's a, baby. Beta's giving him a hard time about it. He was, save the whales, but not the universe, eh? Just his delivery was great.
I feel everybody was laying into this kid really fucking hard for his very reasonable decision to not get into an intergalactic war.
Yeah. You don't want to go up there and get your head melted? Let's see. My next quote. My quotes are significant to me because of their delivery. Sometimes my quotes are more plot driven. Not so much this time around. They save the day. They go back to Earth. And when Grig is meeting Lewis for the first time, he shares, I've heard a lot about you. Lewis turns back to his whole community, and he doesn't flip them off, but he basically flips them off hear that, slimes? I'm famous. You know?
Fucking great.
What a little shit.
Yeah.
Lewis is a little bit of a bastard.
You hear that, Slimes? And then the last one I've got was amazing, and I wish that they would do this in more movies. But they got rid of Zor. Zor was removed so that he could be not in the sequel. They take out... What do they take out? Like the guidance system, and they're crashing. The bad guys are crashing into this.
The
planet.
command ship is on a collision course with the moon.
Yeah. He said, "Well, what do we do now?" And then it kind of like zooms in on the bad guy or whatever. And he says, "We die." And that's it. It just goes back, and they're done.
Like he has this little targeting computer over his eye.
He's got a scouter.
And so then he says, "What do we do?" And the scouter flips over and it zooms in and he just says very poignantly, "We die."
We die. And he's got this like rough and gruff, like, we die. You're just like, oh shit, they're gonna die.
And then they do.
I know because of his tone.
It's amazing.
He's serious.
He's very serious. Are we ready to rate this biatch?
Let's rate it.
Yes.
Is this potato baked?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to kick us off. I will give this movie a 5.9 asteroids.
I like it. Is that asteroids with 2 S's?
Yes.
How voluptuous. Okay. I'm gonna go with 6.5 ear licks.
I would also like to clarify that my 5.9, I feel like my personal rating might be a little higher, but objectively, if I'm really aiming for as objective as a score as I can give it, I would get, I have to go a little lower.
Yeah.
I think that I would give this 4.9 Kodan command ships.
Ooh, that's a Kodan.
Yeah.
That's the code.
Oh, damn it.
That's
Kodan.
a Kodan.
Okay, we got a 5.9, 4.9, and 6.5.
Yep. Wow, I went the highest on this one.
Okay, so are we ready for our scene score?
Scene score.
We're getting better at that.
Yeah.
That was look. We didn't max out it at all.
Yeah.
That's gonna come in all right.
Yeah.
We're looking at squiggly bars, guys. Not to make you jelly, but be jealous because squiggly bars.
It's gorgeous.
Okay, so our average familiarity for this movie was 2.8. Not bad. It's actually exactly where I thought it was going to be. I think this is the kind of movie that, like, if you're born at a certain time, as the three of us were, I think you got a pretty good shot, again, as the, 2 out of 3 here will have seen it, or at least, know of it. I think if you're out of that range, this is the kind of movie that probably will have missed you. Mm-hmm. So for our listening audience, which I think is, kind of a sample bias towards our age range, probably a little bit like, yes, I feel I'm not surprised that like a familiarity of about, let's say 25% is where we ended up. Our average rating was 5.8 or thereabouts. Not bad. And then our adjusted score,
the scene score, if you will,
was 6.25. 6.3, let's say.
Yeah.
6.3. Yeah, I think so.
I feel good about it.
I think that's exactly where we wanted to be on this one. Like, 5.7 is a fairly, this is coming from the guy who gave it a 5.9, but like, I feel like that's a pretty in the ballpark range for the movie. And I think it's the kind of movie that, like, if it piques your interest at all because of the low familiarity, I would put a little extra pizzazz on it. And 6.3 is the range I would expect for this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that this is the type of movie that I would revisit often, but I would probably drag it out for a movie night.
Yeah, or if you need just, a good head-melting scene.
Yeah.
All right. Are we Laura Dern?
I believe we are.
Yes.
Now, let's check out the tour dates, because I want to make sure that we have our summer scheduled.
Yeah, so band number 1 coming up, I think they're actually opening up on the Taylor Swift tour that's sweeping the nation right now, is Snatching Grandpas. Hide your grandpas.
Hide your grandpas.
Lock up your grandpas, put away your grandfathers, watch out for them papas.
Hide your wife, hide your kids, and hide your grandpas, because they snatching them out here. And then they're opening for Space Assin, whose principal song, like they're really the song that made them famous is
Space Assin.
Space Assin, exactly.
Yeah, it's like a cosmic twerk.
Yeah.
Cosmic twerk.
You
And that's all we've got on our tours this year. And that is all for the All Crep Review. Thank you for listening. If you have any ideas for movie reviews, or if you want to get involved and contribute to the Scene Score, get a sneak peek of upcoming movies, and take our short weekly-ish survey, email us at 3, that is the number 3, menandabasement@gmail.com. You can also find us on our website at TMAAB, which stands for 3 Men and a
Basement!
.podbean.com, or, send us a burp envelope. That's fine, too.
I love the burp envelopes.
Or inscribe it on Morton's toe and mail it in.
Hot dogs.
Be sure. Hot dog. And you can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you find your podcasts. And until next time, I'm Colin McLeod.
Mark Holt.
Action Jackson.
And we'll see you in cyberspace.
She's mad.
She's mad.